Talk about a crazy day. We've got wild stories plus your questions. So let's get started.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Screw your freedom.
Well, everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It's time for our monologue and Q&A. And woo, it was a long way to get back home, but I made it. We're here. We're in the bunker. We're safe. I hope you are safe. I hope you are well prepared. I hope you're well versed in all the reasons, folks. All the reasons that it's hit the fan and that we all need to be prepared. We, meaning you and I, we put together a fabulous group, a fantastic network of interconnectedness. I want to thank you for supporting all that we do on Patreon. And I want to thank all of you for supporting everything we do on Sunday Night Live. Now let's get into some action. We're going to have a bunch of monologue bunch of monologue topics. And I want to hear what you have to say. What is it that you want to hear? Because they have hit us from left-wing lunatic social issues to left-wing lunatic political issues to name it. It's the entire gamut, the entire spectrum of activity that's happening is all on the terms of the leftists. Have you noticed that? Even when it comes to violence, it's the left. Even when it comes to blaming people for violence, it's the left blaming us. It's incredible. They're controlling the entire script. That's the best way to put it. It's like they're writing this garbage. And here's the deal, folks. I don't think a whole lot of people are believing it. So get your questions into Jolene. We got Jolene in the house. We got Uman in the house. We got a bunch of you in the house right now. It's time to talk about what is happening. And I just want to start right off the bat with the Biden administration. This is where we're at, folks. This presidency started with what many people consider to be a little bit of a questionable beginning, right? And they've moved on, folks. They've moved on to abandoning Afghanistan, leaking classified information, lying about everyone and everything, abandoning our border, right? The left and Biden doxing what? Supreme Court names, the justices where they live, their families. Everything the radical left wants, Biden has absolutely supported, including the leftist national rage, this rage that's contained and held and then turned loose by Antifa and BLM and the radical feminists. It is an all-out attack on our culture, our traditions, as well as our laws. I mean, what do you think? What do you think? See, this is your show as much as mine. I want to thank you guys for all you have done. But the problems, folks, they're not just American. They're not just North American. They're not just Anglo. These are global issues we're now facing. When it comes to energy, peace, these are global issues as well as American issues. Right? Everyone in the world of politics is kowtowing to the story, the belief system that Ukraine is good. And they think we're so focused on that, we can't look past their lies there and see the other lies. I want to give this to you, folks, because on the one hand, the globalists, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, they're not fully letting go of cerveza bug. No, they're not. But they're trying to distract us with everything else and keep us off. But get this, right? the great hypocrite and the great moron, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, so-called leader of Canada. He went to Ukraine, folks. And over there, apparently in Ukraine, only 35% of the population has gotten the Jim Jones juice jab. Only 35%. But guess what? In the face of that threat, Trudeau is out in the public without a mask. Did he forget the mask? Does he not believe the science? Or was this a giant photo opportunity, a photo op, where he could stand in front of Ukrainian citizens, stand with, Voldemort Zelensky, and that way he could be recognized. That's virtue signaling, folks. He wants points. He wants political points. He wants to be thought of as brave Justin Trudeau, right? But when he's in Canada, folks, where almost 90% of the Canadian population has gotten the Jim Jones juice and associated boosters, almost 90% in Canada, folks. Number one, I think that's awful that many have. But, be that as it may, he wears a mask in Canada, right? The little black-faced turd. And by black-faced, I don't mean he's black. I mean he wears blackface as part of his costumes in his life. No one else is allowed to do that and get away with it without, having to apologize, but Justin Trudeau can. Because the little Trudeau, is allowed to get away with all kinds of crap. It is unbelievable, folks, that the world keeps electing these scum. Justin Trudeau looks like the Canadian version of the French turd known as Emmanuel Macron. The man who said, piss on the French people. I'm going to piss them off. While he allows foreigners to ruin France. This is what these people are doing, folks. When I talk about Joe Biden just destroying our culture with this social crap, whether it's critical race theory or whether it's the gender bender, skinny jeans wearing, rainbow having identity busters, right? Everything leftist is running the board, and we're left fighting them every step of the way. What is it that you think, folks? What's important to you? What topic is it that you think I should be discussing more of? Get that into Jolene in the comments section, because it's important that we all get it out there. Get these topics out. Yeah, Justin Trudeau. No need to wear a mask in a country that's war-torn, where they're starting to be hungry and starving, and they're not getting the medical attention what they should be, just ravenous with disease, right? Not quite. Not quite. Now, here's this. We're talking about culture. We're talking about our traditions. We're talking about structured society that it has to rest on a foundation of decency and morality. Well, we don't have that, folks. As described, we've got this Fruit Loop skinny jean wearing baloney, plastic banana, good time in your pants, rock and roll education system. And we've got corporations pushing this, pushing it. Well, we should be pushing back and boycott Target. As much as I hate Walmart, I now despise Target. That's right, folks. Woke Target has joined, and it's launching, quote, gender-affirming products. In order for them to sell gender-affirming products, they have to tell some manufacturer that that's what they want, that they're going to want to buy it in sufficient quantities. Now, what is a gender-affirming product, folks? It's a chest binder and packing underwear. Target wants the destruction of our culture, a culture of just, decency. You know what? Being a decent human being, it used to not take, folks. And it used to not take any effort. You didn't have to point it out. You just knew that, well, those Fruit Loops over there, They can do what they want, but that is wrong. And now they're telling us and putting it in our face, saying, no, the Fruit Loops is the way to be. Because, yeah, being a hetero is so bad. So what is a chest binder? Well, that straps boobs down so people who don't identify as women with breasts can pretend to be something they're not. And packing underwear, I guess, are incredibly tight underwear where you pack your testicles and what little penis you have as tight between your legs as you can so you can pretend to be a girl as you identify as one. There is no culture on earth, there is no empire that has ever survived when they get to this stage, folks. When self-destruction and self-hatred is this strong, no empire survives. There's no, tell me an empire where they said, let's deny our very existence, let's deny and hate ourselves, and then watch how we advance so quickly and high above that. It does not happen. This marks the destruction of an empire, of a civilization. And we go into reset mode. You go into reset mode, folks. And this is scary. And the reason I'm going to tell you it's scary is reset mode. After World War I, the Germans, the Prussians, the Hessians, right? The German culture was destroyed, and they were handed a bill to pay for all of the damage in World War I. It absolutely destroyed who they were as a nation, and they got a reset. And who stepped up to fill the void? None other than Adolf Hitler. He was funded by bankers, folks, by fascist bankers in England and New York City. They're destroying our culture right now from the inside. It is a culture war, and there's going to be a vacuum. There's going to be problems. Who is going to step up and fill the void, and how extreme will they be going the other way? Right? None of this, folks, none of this is good. And it's so much more. It is absolutely so much more than just cultural or governmental. And when I talked about Biden just being the antithesis of all that is good, right? From doxing people and supporting every form of lunatic leftistness, they've done it in our military as well. Our military is now running low. Running low, folks. Representative Mike Gallagher, Republican from Wisconsin, he told Fox News that the United States government, the United States military, is dangerously depleting its Javelin missiles, its stockpiles. How is this happening? Oh, because the Biden administration has transferred, folks, 500, 5,000 Javelin and other anti-tank weapons systems, folks, to Ukraine to fight in this Russian invasion. Now, here back domestically, right, those who understand what are being done, right, what the Biden administration, what the Secretary of Defense has done, what the Pentagon has done, is they're depleting our military reserves. Not personnel, but equipment. $85 billion left behind in Afghanistan. All of this weaponry and supplies being sent to Ukraine. Where does that leave us, folks? Where does that leave the Army and the Marine Corps, the Navy and the Air Force? Right? Now, I know we have nuclear weapons and that we could deter people ultimately with those. But nuclear war isn't something that we fight a whole lot of, right? That's the ultimate deterrent. But that wouldn't stop, say, China from invading Taiwan. Right? It may encourage China to invade Taiwan if the United States military is busy being depleted with everything that's going on in Ukraine. We've got issues, folks, big, big issues. And while military stockpiles don't have a whole lot to do with your pantry or your water supply or the safety in your neighborhood, it does have a knockoff effect, right? The more these things go bad elsewhere, the more it affects all of us collectively as Americans, the more we're all going to end up suffering. But Biden today said, oh, well, no, he's going to fix this now, folks. Did you know that Biden's going to fix things? Biden is now, folks, now he's going to address inflation. Can you believe it? I actually don't believe it. I don't. I do not believe this. But this is going to be the new, story. It's going to be a story. The story of Biden. He's now seen how bad inflation is, and he's going to address it. How long have we been talking about inflation? Well, since the Trump administration. But yeah, he's finally going to address it. It's funny how they ignore a problem, say the problem doesn't even exist until it's time for them to use it for hero status and hero purposes, right? Get this. Recall how the White House, Jen Psaki, said, no, we're not going to stick up for the law. We're not going to talk negatively about all the protesters who have doxed the Supreme Court justices' addresses, family members, etc. They treated it like it was just fine, like it was normal, like that kind of thing happened all the time. Now they've changed their tune, right? Now Jen Psaki at the White House has come out and says, no, you protesters should not be harassing the Supreme Court justices at their homes and with their families, right? So they've been encouraging criminal behavior. And I guess they got some reports from the media and pollsters that looks bad. And they're going to be pushing to stack the court with communists and socialists. And it would look really bad, right? If their people, the feminists, the radical idiots, are harassing and maybe even committing acts of violence against Supreme Court members and their families. It's kind of hard to get your way when it looks like you're responsible for all the violence that's occurring, right? And Democrats, folks, are violent hypocrites. They're obnoxious hypocrites, and they're dangerous liars. And they're charlatans, in my opinion, of the highest immoral standards. They've allowed this to go on, folks, so much that Antifa are now planning to go to Justice Alito's home tonight, Monday night. I'm sure they'll be mostly peaceful because they, folks, Antifa, they're just an idea, right? Wink, wink. They're just an idea. Unlike a domestic violent terrorist called parents, Antifa are not classified as terrorists by the FBI, but parents are. We live in a clown world, folks. They're destroying our culture, our traditions, our laws. They're destroying our country. Now, you and I should be prepping to action. Have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, all this stuff, right? Have a plan to deal with any violence in your. We need all that. But we also need to call our representatives. Text them, email them, contact them in every way you can. Say, this shit's got to stop. This is going to have to be fought, folks, on the national level, on the state level, and on the local level. It has to be fought because we have this tiered system of governance, right? Local, state, and federal. And so it has to be fought on every level. Whew. Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. Strap your boobs and your balls down because it is going to get very nasty. Antifa, yeah, they're now, they put out little, Facebook flyers. They're talking to each other, folks. They're trying to get themselves riled up. What does Antifa, anti-fascism, have to do with Roe v. Wade? Nothing. Nothing. This Roe v. Wade thing is just an excuse. Right? It's just an excuse for these leftists to go fucking bonkers. And that's the deal. That's the problem with the Biden administration, is they have completely created a scenario, a situation whereby the rage all these leftists have, it's now an excuse. That was said so we can go out and we can throw rage at everyone. Oh, Roe v. Wade, rage. Black Lives Matter, rage. It's all about the rage, I guess. I mean, these people are lost. And we talk about how the mainstream media is not for you and me. We don't watch that garbage. So who is it for? Well, it's for the mind-numbed robots out there that listen to the boob tube and don't do any thinking for themselves. Again, I don't want you to just believe me, right? Think about stuff. Ask other people questions. Ask yourself questions. What do you believe and why? You know, sometimes the answer is it's just the right thing to do. And I know the difference between right and wrong. But listen to this statement. There's a guest on MSNBC. She says she wants to, quote, make sweet love to whoever it was that was the leaker of the Supreme Court draft opinion on Roe v. Wade. She wants to make sweet love to this person, I guess assuming it's a man, because then she said she wants to joyfully abort the fetus. Can a more depraved mind be invited to join MSNBC, the mainstream media parade of evil and stupid? No, you really can't. I mean, some of the most obscene shit is now said on mainstream media, and we're just supposed to go, oh, I guess that's normal. I recall that we were told that making a statement is dangerous. So speech must be moderated, monitored, and censored. Remember that? You can't just say anything because your words are dangerous. They're deceptive. They're disinformation. They're misinformation. People could die. So here we have someone talking about how joyful it is to get an abortion, right? Their speech is allowed to promote their sick agenda, folks. But how damaging is it to the psyche of young women to hear a perceived role model, a recognized authority figure on TV, right? They're on TV. They must know what they're talking about. And this person on TV is flippantly saying aborting a fetus is a joyous act. Clearly, they haven't read of the psychological damage it's caused to young women who do this, right? The destruction of a fetus has always led to a negative psychological effect on the mother. And she is the mother. The moment that she becomes pregnant, she is a mother and is nurturing that baby. Well, it's involuntary, right? The same way breathing and our heart beating is involuntary. You just start doing it. You become a mother whether you like it or not. Well, they want destruction. They want to be able to destroy that life. Democrats want destruction, so they tell these young women it's good. That's the fight we have, folks. See, it's as big a deal as Roe v. Wade is, and the government allowing the death of babies. The mainstream media wants to control the narrative that it's wrong for anyone to pass a law stopping that. That the right mentality that we should all have, the correct mentality we should have, is that the Democrat belief system is proper. That having an abortion is just fine, that it's even joyous. See how sick these people are? It's not just about getting an abortion. It's about creating the mindset and controlling the minds of these young people to believe that, yeah, it's your right. Right? All this hands off my body and keep your male mind out of my feet, my womb or whatever, their expressions are. They got all these expressions. If you don't have a uterus, you can't talk about one. How damaging is this? Everything is a social war, a monetary war, a military. Everything is the fight, folks. If you stand up against Black Lives Matter, now you've asked for a race war. If you stand up for the life of infants, fetuses, you have started a war. If you stand up to the World Economic Forum, you've started a war. If you stand up to the medical tyrants, you've started a war with them. Well, it's not really quite like that. They started a war with us by trying to steal our rights and destroy our country. They started it. We're just now starting to fight back. And again, it's not a call for violence, right? This is a satire channel. But it's something I think that we need to continue to say is it's time for us to politically fight back. And while you're waiting for that political fight to grow and expand and grow some more, you might want to have all the tools of the trade as a patriot and an American. As a patriot and as an American, you need all the tools of the trade. Yep, I think I make myself clear sometimes. Unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. At the beginning of this, I said, look, it's not over. Justin Trudeau, he's gone over. He's not wearing a mask. He'll come home and he'll wear a mask. The White House today. I want to give you one more blast of Biden stupidity and Democrat stupidity, and to show the fact that they're controlled, that there's an agenda, that every piece, every tool, every bit of power they have is to be turned on us. The White House has already asked for another $20 billion in cerveza bug money to stop the winter wave. Well, we just left winter on March 21st. March, April, it's the beginning of May. We're in the middle of spring, and they're already talking about next winter, which comes after the spring and after the summer and after the fall. These people are ahead of the curve, folks, so far. They want to appropriate. In other words, they want the government to agree to give them money now for what will be coming, right? So we already have a wave of something coming that doesn't exist. In fact, over in China right now, they're locking down even tighter because of cerveza bug. They're locking down even tighter, folks. And the numbers of infections are going down. Why? Because it's a control mechanism. It's an absolute control mechanism. I suppose that giving that $20 billion to pharmaceutical giants will somehow make the Jim Jones juice and the juice boosters actually work. They didn't work the first time or the second time or the booster time. They haven't worked over the last year and then some. So what is this about? It's about control. It's about wealth. It's about power. It's about stopping you and I from being free. Let's do this. We are right at the halfway point. I want to get to what you guys want to talk about. I hope you've got questions. I know you do. I've got other topics to cover, but I want to hear what you are thinking. We've got just continuing to come up in the news feed over here. We've got more and more coming out on a daily basis. It's not like we have to dig to find things, folks. It's here. These people are on us every step of the way. For example, in Washington, D.C., well, folks, we talk about rhinos, and Donald Trump, thankfully, has been, shall we say, endorsing Republican candidates that are not rhinos, that are not Republican name only. In other words, he's endorsing candidates that aren't Democrats claiming to be Republicans. But they're still out there, and they're still fighting to get into the Republican Party, to ruin it. There's a GOP or Republican congressional candidate who has gone on the record trashing Big Marge Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia, says she's not going to endorse her. Now, I don't know why a Georgia Republican needs a Washington a Washington candidate to endorse her. It's kind of ridiculous, don't you think? I mean, who needs the endorsement of someone from Washington if you're from the South? You know, hundreds of miles across the country. Unbelievable, but it's going to continue. So let's do this. Let's get to your questions, folks, your questions. And remember, always remember that Make America Great, that Republicans, that patriots, we're the most extreme, dangerous people.
Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
I mean, the dude is just whack. Now for your questions at the Q&A.
Are you ready?
And we're back. We've got Latin America preparedness. And he says, what does Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Fidel Castro, and Joe Biden have in common? They all had disinformation boards. Isn't that incredible, folks? As soon as you step into the political realm of people who needed to control thought, the people discovered how tyrannical they can be. In the Soviet Union, folks, which was a terrifying communist regime, they had Pravda, their one source of news. Pravda means truth. That one source of news wasn't an independent journalist society. No, not a bit. It was the government, and what the government said people should hear, and what the government said people are allowed to talk about, and what the government said people were allowed to even think about. Now, the same thing could be said of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, Chairman Mao in China, Fidel Castro in Cuba. Every last one of these regimes, folks, had a disinformation board or a ministry of truth. And here we are, the United States of America. Well, the United States corporate government in Washington, D.C. now wants to have its own version. So essentially, in my opinion, what they're doing is they're admitting that they want to be every bit as tyrannical as the communists of Russia, the Soviets, the Nazis of Germany, the communists of Cuba. So size, location on the planet, political affiliation with the extreme left Nazis or the extreme left communists, because they're all extreme, folks, and they're all left. Nazis are not right-wing. Nazis are extreme totalitarian socialists. Thank you. That was a great discussion point, a great discussion piece. I appreciate it very much. And let's do this. Let's move on to who we got next. Get your questions in. There's always room to add more. And Jolene can have me. She can say, hey, we got more. And I will stay and answer them all. Because you are on Patreon Live with me. And your questions matter. Your support is keeping this information. And yeah, of course, anyone who sees this on YouTube, subscribe. Share it with others. Hit the thumbs up. Right? We've got to do that. And if I can, get you to Patreon to join us for these live topics. And now we've got Todd and Prepared. He says the media, etc., keep saying Russia can't win. Putin is done. Okay, we'll see. Now, this is fascinating. I know that none of you are rooting for Russia any more than I'm rooting for Russia. I'm not pro-Russia, pro-Putin. I'm pro-freedom, pro-liberty. And I can understand another country's desire to have, well, secure borders, to not have their enemies on their borders pointing nuclear missiles at them. I can see that. I can understand that. Right? So it's incredible. But the media over here, the Pravda in the United States of America, the Ministry of Truth in the United States of America, that's being shoved down our throat by the United States government. They keep saying, yeah, Russia can't win, and Putin is finished politically, and the Russian military is getting their butts kicked, and they're sinking ships and crashing jets and shooting helicopters out of the sky and burning tanks and capturing all the Russian soldiers. Interesting. You know what Putin did today? Putin doesn't think they're going to lose, and the people of Russia are supporting him. They held a celebration of defeating the Nazis today, right? Because it wasn't the Americans that freed the world or stopped the Nazis. It was the Americans coming from the West and the Russians or Soviets coming from the East. And if Berlin was in the middle, they both met basically at the same time. Berlin got split right in half, folks. Berlin got split right in half. East Berlin, West Berlin. Cold War started up after that. But the Soviets and, the people of the Soviet Union who are Russian, and now there's no more Soviet Union, it's just Russia. They're very proud of the fact that they stopped Nazis, that they defeated Hitler. And they're very proud that they protected their country from the invasion Hitler brought. They fought in St. Petersburg or Leningrad. They fought and they died. It was horrifying, folks, World War II. Well, who would want to invite war into their country? Let me ask you that very important question. Who would want to invite war into their own country? You want to know who did? Voldemort Zelensky. That's right, folks. He invited war into his country. He did it by first performing a coup d'etat and installing a puppet government in Ukraine. And then Russia said, we won't be having any of that. And they came up with some peace agreements, which Voldemort Zelensky and Ukraine have been disobeying. And then I don't know how you taunt a military superpower like Russia and then expect them not to do something about it. Let me put it to you this way. Okay. We were told Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And so the United States went in and invaded and kicked his ass. Took a long time, but they kicked his ass. And let's see, Afghanistan had Osama bin Laden, the world's greatest terrorist mastermind, living in a cave somewhere on a kidney dialysis machine, planning his next future attack or whatever the hell he was doing. So the United States had to invade Afghanistan and start that for the last 20 years. People are like, well, John, he had a coalition behind him. The United States government had a coalition. You mean like the coalition that Biden unilaterally skipped out on in Afghanistan when he abandoned ship on them, when he just left them? Like, F you, Canada, Europe, everybody, screw you, we're just leaving. Right? So now, okay, so there was some coalition partners, but the United States felt it was threatened by Saddam Hussein. The whole world was threatened. Same with Afghanistan. Well, does Russia have the right to have that same opinion? That they're not being threatened by a country around the world, say, the way we supposedly felt threatened by Iraq and Afghanistan, literally on the other side of the planet, folks. On the other side of the planet. Russia is dealing with Ukraine right next door to them. Well, they didn't have a coalition. Yeah, actually, Russia does have a coalition. Russia is a federation of multiple states. Right? There's Russia, there's Uzbekistan, there's Kazakhstan, there's Georgia, there's Turkmenistan, there's Belarus. Right? I think Estonia, Lithuania, they joined NATO. But Russia said enough, right? Who else is joined with Russia? Who is the Russian coalition? Well, Russia, all of the former Soviet countries that are now part of the Federation of States or Nations. Then you have China. You have India. You have South Africa. You have Brazil. There are many, many nations that have joined the Russian coalition, the Russian side of this. It's not that easy. But the mainstream media wants us to believe that Russia is evil and bad, that Russia's the bad guy, that they're losing, they can't win. The mainstream media and all the political scientists know that nobody likes to root for a loser, the losing team. Nobody likes to say, we're number 2. Well, I like to say that Washington, D.C. is full of people who are just like number 2 in the toilet. But they do. They want us to believe that we're going to win. It's done. Putin can't win. It's going to be over soon. So Americans can go, yeah, we won and defeated the Russian dude, and we helped the Ukraine people, and they don't even know what the hell we're doing there, folks. We're just told that Russia's bad. Unbelievable. This is the world we live in, folks. This is the stupidocracy that we have. All right, Jolene, let us move on with more interesting topics that you guys are bringing up, because we're in the Q&A section. And we got Sally Sue. She says, I was reading about the Holodomor. Russian soldiers at one point broke into homes and took all food, animals, seeds. Could that happen here? Do you think it will? What Sally Sue is referring to is prior to World War II, in 1932 and 1933, the Soviet communist socialist leader, Joseph Stalin, starved the people of Ukraine. He did this intentionally. He sent in his Soviet military, his authoritarian military, and they went into Ukraine, and this act that killed millions of Ukrainians and other ethnic peoples of the region, they went in and they took their animals, their livestock. They took all of their food that they had grown, their grains, their potatoes, everything they had, they took it. And they said, we'll give you what you need. And I want you to think about this very carefully. The government said, great, you did a great job. We're going to take that and hold it. And we'll give everyone what they need. But if there's any extra, it goes to other parts of the country, right? It goes to feed the Russian army. This is typical of a government to say, give us all your stuff and we'll give you back what you need, right? Well, see, from each according to their ability, give us your shit. To each according to your need. Only the government tells you what you need. Isn't that interesting? The same way our government tells us we need the Jim Jones juice. We need to stay at home. We need to pay more taxes. We need to shut up and not question the government. Funny, the government always knows what you need, whether you're in a communist nation, a Nazi nation, or whatever the heck our nation is now. The government's going to tell us what they need. So the Holodomor, at one point, well, they did it for 2 years. They starved the people. Could that happen here in America? Yeah, it could. There are executive orders that the United States government has already filled out, already signed. The president just has to say, we have an emergency. This government, folks, if you think it's sparkly white, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, these executive orders they exist. See, we're talking about the Holodomor, where the people were starved. Well, in the United States of America, under the federal government, they claim that they can control all of the fuel, all of the food, all of the water, all of the equipment, all means of production, and all human resources. You and me, the people, us, even the people are owned by the United States government if the president says there's an emergency. They don't have to come take it all at once, but they can say, we're here, you will give us your food. We're here. We need weapons and ammunition because we're fighting a war in Ukraine and Russia, and we're fighting a war in Afghanistan and Syria. We're fighting a war in everywhere on the planet. So we need your guns and your ammunition. And by the way, go get on that train car and put on those silver bracelets. That'll keep you safe. It could happen here. Do I think it will happen here? I think to a lesser extent, it will be tried in certain areas. And in certain areas, it'll be just accepted. We have to help. The government says it's an emergency. Don't you know how bad things are? Look at all the cerveza bug that isn't killing people. And in other areas, they're going to be like, that ain't fucking happening. You're not getting our food. You're not getting our guns. You're not telling us what to do. We're not going where you say. We don't care if it's an emergency. If it's an emergency, we'll take care of ourselves. Once again, it's perspective. Are you prepared or not? Country folks tend to be more prepared than city folks. City folks tend to look to the government for protection more often. Right? So these will be more probably urban issues. But don't expect urban, shall we say, patriots to just say, yeah, you're right. Here's all my shit. I don't need to be prepared. I think it'll be quite the opposite. You go from rural warfare to urban warfare, from hilltop to hilltop and tree to tree to building. All righty, let's see. Who else do we have next? Jolene. We've got the Oregon Patriot. Always Oregon Patriot has something good to say. Let's see what he says. He's got a comment. He says, I'm concerned that the Democrats will cheat again this fall simply because nobody did a damn thing about 2020. I can't see them turning a new leaf. Thoughts? I have some terrific thoughts for you. Number one, I have to argue with you. When you said nobody did a damn thing about 2020. I think that statement is born out of frustration because we didn't get validated. We knew that a bunch of shit happened. We knew it was cheating. We knew it was wrong. We knew it was a lie. We all stood up and screamed. Folks, how many Republican congressmen and senators were ready to go on January 6th and say, no, we vote against this? And then the FBI's January 6th insurrection was kicked off using their people with radio headsets, equipment, on the scene wearing their special uniforms so the police knew who they were. And they had agents provocateur in the crowd. And they opened the doors after creating havoc and fury outside. And then they let people inside so that they could trap them there and catch them on camera and try and show them as doing bad things. Okay. We did a lot about 2020. Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, all said, we've got problems here. Several of the states are right now at this time fighting, trying to get these records exposed. And we've got political officials doing absolutely jack shit, using their job to run as cover, to hide what was done in 2020. It's been investigated. It's been exposed. They've done audits. The people said, no, we don't like it. And I understand your reluctance to say, I think we're going to see it again. I'm not real confident we're going to get a fair, free election here in the United States of America. I understand that, right? Why would I believe that we have got this thing sealed up when it's been demonstrated again and again and again that the election fraud machine is somewhere out there in the future getting ready to be turned on? So all the more reason we should be demanding from our elected representatives that their bureaucrats do all they can to make sure this is fair. There's lawsuits going on all over the place right now over Dominion voting machines. There's lawsuits. There's lawsuits all over the place challenging the results of 2020, as well as they're ready to challenge and take a look at what's happening in 2022. Several states have passed election reform laws. Remember this, folks. Remember Georgia? Remember Florida? In colleges, the NCAA said, we're not going to have sports in that state because you don't recognize this political crap. And Major League Baseball tried saying, well, we're not going to have the All-Star game in Atlanta because Atlanta passed election reform laws. And it's like, what does frickin' baseball have to do with the election? Well, they're virtue signaling, playing woke corporation. Yeah, that's right. Major League Baseball is every bit as woke as National Basketball Association or the NFL. They're all a bunch of crooks and scumbags trying to push their politics on us and make us accept. That's the deal. They want us to accept their version of reality. Well, they can stuff it. So I wanted to address this, Oregon Patriot, because I understand the disappointment, because not one state was able to decertify, even though they've been on the brink, on the verge for 2 years. Well, a year and a half. They've been fighting. And here's the key, is there's the other side, which has been fighting back against them. Fighting back against them. Even Colorado. New Mexico right now is a state that is full on fighting this. God bless them. I'm glad they're fighting it. I'm glad they're looking into it. And folks, take this to heart. People have fled the major scumbag leftist states, California, Illinois, and New York. And the people who largely have left have been the Republicans. Most of the people have stayed, or I should say a majority of the people who have stayed in those states are liberals. So they're going to have fewer constituents from California. The other states are going to have more Republicans going to Washington, D.C., Texas, Florida, more Republicans now than ever. And they're going to redistrict, draw those lines, and they're going to vote out more Democrats. Plus, the Democrats are getting themselves thrown out. This needs to happen on the state level and not just the federal level, by the way. I understand your reluctance to have a great deal of faith or put a lot of hope or invest any emotional belief system into having a great election in 2022. But I will say this. Me, you, us, we fought like hell. We screamed and yelled to the point that they had to censor us. They had to quiet us down. They had to tell us, if you talk about that again, we're going to erase your video. Right? You're not allowed to talk about that topic because it's misinformation, and misinformation is dangerous. Oh, you mean like telling kids that it's harmless to put hormones in your body that don't match your DNA, your chromosomal makeup? It's okay to just jam drugs in there that interfere with your body's natural development based on your DNA, which does determine your gender. Gender is not a social construct. It's chromosomal. It's DNA, right? But they're going to call, that's not disinformation. Well, that's their political agenda. They politicized young penises and vaginas. But they don't want us to talk about what we think is important. They do want us to accept what they think is important. Great topic there. Thank you, Oregon Patriot. We need to keep fighting them, folks. We need to keep yelling, screaming, sending emails, text messages, sending messages on carrier pigeons or carrier turtles, whatever it takes to get that message there. Email, text, everything. Okay, Jolene. Oh, shoot, we got another one. Hey, John, China wants to destroy America. Do you think the Bidens are giving them their money's worth? Oh, this is... You wanted to bring that one up, do you? Well, there's proof that the Bidens are working with China, not just in the past, folks, but still. Joe Biden is pictured, I'm reading this article here, Joe Biden is pictured at the Beverly Hilton the day after the reported meeting with Tony Bobulinski was in the same hotel. Well, that's interesting, right? That's interesting. Yeah. See, there's a problem here, folks. Back in October, before the election of 2020, Tony Bobulinski held a press conference that has been seen over 2 million times. He's the CEO of Sinohawk, and Sino means China. Okay. Sinohawk Holdings, which is the partnership between the Chinese and the Biden family, the Chinese Communist CEFC chairman and the Biden family. And this relationship, folks, goes back in time, right? It goes back in time, back to 2017. So when you say, are the Bidens giving them their money's worth? The answer is yeah. The Bidens are making it easier and easier and easier for China to make its advances on Taiwan while pretending to be pissed about it, while pretending to be against China, even luring the Japanese Navy down there to assist in putting a show of strength against China. Don't you dare, right? Chinese have an aircraft carrier group, so does the United States Navy, and so does the Japanese Navy. Right? But we're depleting our military. We're depleting our fuel reserves. We're depleting our food. We're depleting our moral compass. Everything's being depleted. It's being taken down notch by notch by notch. They've told Americans, you don't get to pick your own gender. No, you have to pick your own gender. It just can't be the one that you want to pick. Right? They're destroying this country. Yeah, the Chinese are laughing at us. They're like, look what these stupid Americans are doing. The media tells them, and the people believe this nonsense. Critical race theory. The Chinese are laughing their ass off. The government's like, look, if you want the people to do something, you just beat them until they do it. Right? But in America, they've got us beating ourselves, flogging ourselves. It's crazy. Anyways, James, thank you very much for that great topic. And it's going to continue to be an SHTF topic until, and I believe it's going to happen, until China goes into Taiwan. And then the president, Xi Biden, will get very, very upset and not be able to do a whole lot more than run to the end of his leash and bark furiously. We got Kathy Lemaster checking in, says, so surveyors were just in the area and when questioned why, said they were mapping flight paths and the power lines, but wouldn't state what company or who they were doing it for. Is this normal? The answer is yes. That sort of thing can be normal. They're in the area and question what they were doing. They were mapping flight paths and the power lines. There was a time I had a very remote piece of property where I built the former Prepared Mind palatial bunker. And I was in the kitchen making breakfast one weekend morning, and a guy went walking through the front yard with a backpack on with a big giant whip antenna, looked like a military setup. And I thought, that's rather strange considering how far out in the middle of frickin' nowhere I am. Who thinks they have the right to enter my property and walk around? It turned out to be the electric company, and they were going to where all of the transformers were stationed all over the place. And believe this, folks, I mean, this is how this went. The utility district that I was in, the location and placement of every transformer that had been done like the last 20 years were known in the head of two guys, primarily one man. They didn't have it marked down on maps. They didn't know shit. They just knew that, well, Kelly is the guy. Kelly knows all that stuff. Well, so they had Kelly on the phone with everybody, right? And then people all over, Tularosa, God's country, he was directing them to find where the transformers were set, a little pad transformer set there. And then they would find them and then mark them with GPS. That's literally what they ended up doing. And I was like, okay, I get, the power company has the right to be on your property, to read the meter, to modify, improve, or work on any equipment that's there as part of the easement. Part of the easement. Anyway, so it can be normal, Kathy, but I think, like I did, you should go and ask them, what the hell are you doing? How does this help anybody? What is this promoting? How is this beneficial? And get some answers. I think it's a good thing to get in the habit. It is perfectly normal to be concerned and curious, and therefore it's perfectly normal to go put them to the question, what the fuck are you doing here? You need planes for that, right? You know, come see, come saw, a little of this, a little of that. But yeah, definitely always ask questions, folks. Question authority on every level. We are at the 1 hour mark. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say good day to you. Thank you for sponsoring the channel. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for asking great questions. And thank you for getting prepared and helping your neighbors get prepared. Thank you for sharing the URL address up here. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up, the like button. Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. I took the red eye trip home. Took, what was it? 2.5 hours to get back from Mom's. I was a bit tired, so I'm still dragging ass a little bit. But I tell you what, we've got a lot of work to do, you and I. We've got a lot of work. It has hit the fan, and it is nasty. They're going to try and convince us everything's normal, but as discussed, if things get really bad, they may come, knock on your door and say, hey, we need your food, right? Hey, we've got an emergency. We need you to get on that train. Hey, we got an emergency. We're just going to put a bullet in the back of your head right now. We need to be aware and prepared for all things. You need food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. You need your plan. Go to thepreparedmind.club and get what you need. And if you haven't, for Pete's sake, go to patreon.com, find The Prepared Mind on patreon.com, and sign up on patreon.com. It's only $2, folks. 7 cents a day. $2 a month. And we've got well over 1,000 people there who are able to come here every day live and get it on and talk about it hitting the fan. Because, folks, if it wasn't for patriots, this would already be a ruined country. We've got to keep going. We've got to get prepared. We've got to fight back. Prep to action. Chance favors the prepared mind. Aren't you glad you're a prepper? Semper Fi, and I'll see you bright and early.